Here's the uptown Charlotte skyline from the WBTV webcam. Summer's in full swing and many people are returning to normal everyday activities. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Life on the Grid. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish, here with a special episode to kick off the new fiscal year. Apologies for the absence in the month of June. Things got really busy around here, and normally we have a special guest from the motorsports community, but today we have several members of the Grid Network family here with me tonight. Unfortunately, we couldn't get everyone on the show tonight, but I really think you'll enjoy everyone here. We'll be talking about racing, random stuff, and everything in between. First thing up, everyone, let's do a little icebreaker. I know I'm going to sound like a teacher on the first day of school, and I really hated doing these stupid icebreakers. You probably did too, but why not? Let's just do it anyways. So, with that said, please state your name, job title here at Grid Network, where you're from in the world, and a fun, non-racing related fact about yourself.
Well, my name is Ben Schneider. You can catch me on Sunday nights on the Grid Live wrap-up show. I've also done a couple of these shows, Life on the Grid with you, Kobe. I'm from northern Delaware, about 40 minutes south of Philadelphia, 40 minutes north of Dover International Speedway. And non-racing related fact about myself, obviously I have a huge passion for motorsports, but also a big fan of game shows and reality television. And if you follow my YouTube channel, you probably already knew that.
My name is Adam Lemarice. I live in Waynesville, North Carolina. I am a co-host with Kobe Lambeth on Grid Tonight, and I'm the Repco Supercars expert. And a cool fact a lot of people don't know about me is not only am I a huge motorsports fan, I'm also a huge fan of professional bowling. I've traveled all over the country to see the best bowlers in the world compete on the PBA Tour or the Professional Bowlers Association Tour.
Hi everyone, Matt White here, the Grid World Motorsport League and the Grid Ranking WRC points contributor. Coming to you from just outside of Milton Keynes in the UK, so about 35-40 minutes from Silverstone. That's my local circuit. And obviously the Grand Prix has just been there, so it's a big weekend for us here in this part of the UK. Non-racing fact, I was once a ball boy at a game between Luton Town and Walsall in Division 1 of the English League about 25 years ago, and I think I've still got the blade of grass I nicked from the pitch that day.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniele Zeri from Racers Behind the Helmet. I'm the editor at the website that I co-founded. And at Grid Network, I co-host the Women Racing to Win with Joe Samaniego. I'm from Italy, north of Italy precisely, and like 1 hour and a half drive from Monza. And I'm non-racing related. Guess it's going to be that I studied at film school, and yeah, one of my dreams was to become a film director.
My name is Joe Samaniego, founder of the Grid Network. Originally from Alaska, now residing in Portland, Oregon. And a non-motorsports related fact about me, I enjoy cooking, barbecuing, big time foodie, and always been passionate about, especially municipal government.
I'm Kobe Lambert. I'm a motorsports journalist at the Podium Finish, and I'm the multimedia producer here at Grid Network. I'm from Reedsville, North Carolina. I know Tar Heel State, home of NASCAR, and a fun, non-related racing fact about myself. I have a feeling that I'm really going to regret admitting this to you guys, but my guilty pleasure on Sunday nights after the NASCAR Cup Series race and after Grid Live wrap-up, I really enjoy watching 90 Day Fiance with my family. Yeah, I just really enjoy all of the crazy drama on that show. My favorite show used to be Big Brother that comes on CBS, but for some reason in recent years, my love for that show has really fallen apart. So 90 Day Fiance and all that drama has definitely replaced Big Brother in my life. And throughout the course of life, we make memories that stick around for a lifetime, sometimes good memories and other times bad. Reflecting on the past, there's been many memorable moments in motorsports. Starting with the good, a lot of people become interested in auto racing at a young age due to the memories made that give them a good feeling inside. As everyone knows, all members of Grid Network here are professionals who cover auto racing to the best of our ability. Whether you're in media, work for a race team, a driver, or employed anywhere inside of the motorsports industry, everyone is a race fan first. Nowadays, I don't really have much time to just sit around and watch racing. just for enjoyment, but more so working hard to produce content, whether it's for the Podium Finish or Grid Network, because I want to cover motorsports for the rest of my life, and I want that to be my career. However, I realize none of this would be possible without being a race fan first, just like all of you watching at home right now. At racetracks all over the world, you see parents with their children enjoying the racing and just enjoying that wonderful family time right in front of our eyes. Those kids, a new generation of race fans falling in love with the sport just like we did. The internet and social media in modern day have really allowed us to share our passion with others around the world who quote unquote get it. And growing up, I didn't really know anybody who loved motorsports, and they kind of made fun of me for liking NASCAR. They were like, "I don't really understand why you like cars that just go in a circle," and I was like, it was just really frustrating. But so social media, one of the good things about it is it's brought me together with some people. I made some wonderful lifelong friends. So yeah, and that was just really a great thing about social media. And unfortunately, I never got to make any memories at the track until I was a teenager, and nobody in my family really liked racing but me. Luckily, my dream eventually came true. I got to attend my first race in 2015 at Martinsville Speedway and make those memories that helped me realize this is the path I truly wanted to go down. Although sometimes I wonder if I should have listened to my elders and attended law school. And here's my question: what's your favorite racing memory from your childhood?
Oh man, there's a lot I could pick out there. I'm thinking back to when I went to visit Daytona International Speedway in 2007, which was a long time ago. Right after Cars came out, Cars was kind of what got me into the whole sport. I'm thinking of what's happened in NASCAR. Thinking back to my childhood, I've always been a fan of AJ Allmendinger, even from when he was just starting out with Red Bull. I've always been a fan of the underdog dog, and like seeing him try to so much as just qualify for a race on any given weekend. Because he was struggling so much to get up to speed. And when he finished third in the Daytona 500 in 2009 with Richard Petty Motorsports with a car that wasn't supposed to even run full time that year, ended up finding sponsorship, running well enough to make that into a full time effort. That was a really special memory for me watching that Daytona 500. I kind of wish they had not called it for weather and line it back up and got them going again, because I think he might have had a chance to win the thing that night. But that was really special for me.
One memory that always sticks out for me is, I lived in New Hampshire for 13 years before I moved to North Carolina in 1997. And on this day, 20 years ago, NASCAR lost one of the greatest young talents in history. His name was Davey Allison. He was part of the Alabama gang. And in 1993, my mom, my dad, and we saw Davey Allison run his last race in New Hampshire Motor Speedway, back then called New Hampshire International Speedway at Loud, New Hampshire. And as we all know what happened next, Davey Allison lost his life in a helicopter accident. Davey Allison was one of the greatest young talents in NASCAR history. He finished second to his father in the 1988 Daytona 500 and went on to win a Daytona 500 of his own a few years later. He started out his career with Robert Yates. He started his career with a team that no longer exists called Rainier Lundy Racing, eventually landing a spot at Robert Yates Racing. When NASCAR goes to New Hampshire this weekend, it'll bring back a lot of memories for me. I saw Dale Earnhardt Sr. race there as a kid. I saw Martin Truex Sr., the father of Martin Truex Jr., race there. I've seen so many memories. And when I was in middle school, what my mom would do is she would put me out of school and we'd go to New Hampshire International Speedway. We'd go see practice and qualifying for the modifieds, the Busch North Series, eventually became the ARCA Menards E Series. I've seen so many drivers in New England history that, when NASCAR goes to New Hampshire Motor Speedway this weekend, it'll bring back a lot of memories for me. I can say I know the exact place where Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. lost their lives at that track. It's a track that has a lot of memories for me, And I wish I could go back there one day and go back to a race there one last time.
Oh, there's so many. Nigel Mansell winning the World Championship in '92, Formula One, and then going across to the States and dominating in IndyCar. I remember Damon Hill's championship win. I remember where I was when he led in Hungary the year after for Arrows, and unfortunately came up just short with a mechanical at the end. For being at the track, memories. Silverstone 2008, Lewis Hamilton walking on water to the victory there was special. It rained all day until about 10 laps to go when the sun came out, when he was already almost a minute clear of everybody, and everybody started popping the champagne and the beers were flowing around the circuit, so that was great. And a more local thing, British Touring Cars season finale. I've got a funny feeling off the top of my head it was 2010, might be wrong. The last day, Jason Plato won all 3 races in the same day. It was only the second time that had ever been done, and Colin Turkington clinched his first championship, and that was a really good day to be trackside.
Many racing memories from the childhood. I would say probably the first Formula One race that I remember watching was Donington 1993. Of course, the mega famous rain in race in the rain, where Ayrton Senna was overtaking everyone in the opening laps. But also on a more personal level, when I started karting, because of course I spent my childhood together with my father, going around the North Italian racetrack, karting track with my own little kart. And then, of course, the first time that was to a Formula One Grand Prix, it was 1995 in Monza, the Italian Grand Prix, and probably would be many more, like the first Monaco Grand Prix that I attended in the paddock in 2011. Or all the friendships that I had with drivers that went on to become quite well-known drivers. Quite a lot of racing related memories.
I would say my favorite racing memory from being a child, I think, was just especially as I was getting more and more new into motorsports and having a favorite driver and seeing them win. I remember Harry Gant. I got really excited when in Martinsville he was going for 4 in a row. He spun. Rusty Wallace, I believe, hit him. He had front end damage. I thought he was not going to win. And then he still came back and won. That was super exciting. Nigel Mansell, being dominant he was in 1992 Formula One, then 1993 IndyCar, that was a really exciting time. All those little memories add up for essentially my love of motorsports. And it's just something where being a child, it was every Sunday, Formula One, NASCAR, IndyCar, and especially Saturday mornings when the Busch Grand National Series was on TNN. It just seemed like something where it's like, okay, Saturday morning, there was cartoons, but then also we watched the Busch Grand National Series. That's really when I was really into Busch Grand Nationals, David Green. A lot of fun watching those old races, and just something where it was just always fun. And then, of course, the NASCAR racing sim games by Pirates, NASCAR racing on PlayStation, I got that. Then next thing you know, I got NASCAR Racing 2 for the PC, up to the last one when I was in high school, NASCAR Racing season 2003. In fact, it's right there behind me. I still have it. Got to reinstall at some point to play it again. But just all sorts of little things that I've enjoyed that's made my passion of motorsport just grow and grow over time.
And for me, my favorite memory from my childhood came just several years ago in 2015. I attended the Martinsville race there in the spring, the STP 500. I remember Denny Hamlin won that race, but it was a really close battle with Brad Keselowski coming off turn 4 on the final lap. And it's really crazy how that opportunity came to be, because my mom used to work with someone who was a big time NASCAR fan and who had a lot of connections to the NASCAR industry. And my mom's coworker actually got called into work on that Sunday, and his race ticket with his family, they had a free ticket, and he went over and asked my mom, he's like, hey, I know your son's big into NASCAR. Do you think he'd like to take my ticket? And then she called and asked me, and I said absolutely, because I had never been to a NASCAR race in person up to that point. And it was just remarkable because I remember on the morning of the STP 500, my aunt drove me to Eden, North Carolina, which is north of where I'm staying at right now in Rockingham County in Reedsville, North Carolina, and and I went over to my mom's coworker's family's house, and they treated me like one of their own. It was just it was really special because they knew nothing about me, but they treated me like I was an honorary member of the family. And the interesting thing about this family, they're really good friends with NASCAR Cup Series driver Matt DiBenedetto. So yeah, so it was really a kind gesture of them to do that for me. And I remember sitting there just starstruck in the car when we were trying to get into the track and we were stopped, and then the phone rings and it's Matt DiBenedetto, and I'm like, wow, I'm sitting in a car and these people are talking to Matt DiBenedetto. It was just really crazy to me at the time, being a teenager and being around those people. We got to the track, had a really good time. I sat in the top of turn one, and it was just a remarkable experience to attend my very first NASCAR event. Friends of Matt DiBenedetto, yeah, and I get to give a shout out to the Pototnick family, especially Jeff Pototnick, my good buddy. He really brought a lot of wonderful memories to my life, and really glad that you support what I'm doing here at Grid Network. And another fun thing, a few years ago when I attended the very first roval race, I got to meet seven-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson's family. Met his father Gary and his brother Jesse, who's done some off off road racing in the past. So thought that was really cool there. That was definitely a top memory from my childhood. And with the good things comes the bad. There's been some dark times in motorsports en route to improve safety features that ensure each driver can go home to their families at the end of the night. I remember last year doing a feature story with Joe on Grid Tonight about safety, and he talked about remembering Greg Moore's fatal accident at Fontana in 1999. And I was only a few months old at the time. I was just born in May 1999 of that year. A lot of people remember where they were when they got the word about Dale Earnhardt's tragic passing following the wreck on the final lap of the 2001 Daytona 500. I was a little too young to remember that day, but my mom told me that my grandparents came over to her house just to tell her about that tragic crash. While they weren't diehard race fans themselves, they understood the true significance of Dale Earnhardt's loss. In 2011, losing Dan Weldon was the first time I experienced something so tragic watching as a race fan, and I'll admit that was really difficult for me to process. I remember that day well, sitting down to watch the IndyCar race on ABC at Las Vegas Motor Speedway with my spaghetti dinner sitting in front of me, ready to watch what I thought would be an exciting race. Instead, I saw one of the worst crashes in the history of auto racing, and to this very day, I still think it's one of the worst that I've seen personally. I couldn't finish my dinner that night. I was way too upset to continue eating, and then we got the official word about Dan Wilson's passing, and I completely lost it. Sometimes we get that tragic reminder that racing is still a very dangerous sport, and we won't get a lucky escape every single time there's a horrific accident. So I know this is a tough question, guys, but I wanted to know, how have you guys processed losing drivers in fatal crashes over the years? Do you think of the potential for tragedy often or block it out completely until it sadly happens again?
Well, Kobe, you and I are very close in age. I was born in June of '99, and I say I wasn't around. I was 19 months old when Dale Earnhardt Sr. was killed. So obviously I wasn't mature enough and old enough to understand and have memories of that. I've been very fortunate. The only fatal crash that I've been watching live was also Dan Weldon's accident. And I say Dan Weldon's accident. I mean, there were 15 cars involved in that crash. I mean, we're lucky we didn't lose Will Power that day as well, because he hurt his back very badly, and the angle that he went into the catch fence was very frightening as well. So it's something that it's always in the back of your mind, I think, as a race fan. But we're very fortunate to be growing up in an era where drivers have to deal with the possibility of something like that happening, Whereas back in the day, I mean, if you go back to the early days of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it seemed like there were 1 or 2 fatal crashes every single year for a little while until they really became serious about safety innovations themselves. So sometimes I feel like it would be fun to go back, to the early days of Indy and Daytona and, watch races happen and events happen in real time as they did back in the day. But, I think I'm thankful, like I said, to be growing up in an era where safety is taken so seriously. And, fortunately, the fatal accidents that we have seen, are few and far between. And, it's never going to be 100% safe, but we can always try to make it a little bit better.
I'm a lot older than you guys, so I can remember the days, when Davey Allison and Alan Kowicki died. I remember the day that Neil Bonnet died, and when Rodney Orr died at Daytona. CBS, it was the 93 or 94 Daytona 500, and Chris Economaki documented it on the pre-race telecast. It's very hard. I can remember the exact place where I was when Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed in the 2001 Daytona 500. It's very hard for me because, like I said, I know where Adam Petty and Kenny Orton Jr. were killed at Turn 3 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Those 2 young drivers had a lot going for them. They could have been NASCAR champions. They could win multiple races. I can remember, and with safety now, I'm glad we haven't seen a lot of fatal accidents like we have. I can remember myself when Dan Weldon passed. I know a lot of people, what they've gone through in different motorsports organizations, with the safety right now, it is remarkable. With the safer barriers that they have at most motorsports tracks here in the United States, it has really helped out a lot. I believe it has saved lives. Watch the safer barriers that have been around, especially when Dale Earnhardt Sr. died at the 2001 Daytona 500, because I believe it could have saved his life. But as we all know, racing is a dangerous sport. Those drivers go out there across the world week in and week out, and we don't know what's going to happen during the race or after the race. But I believe that, as a race fan, I don't like to think about, as a race fan, I don't like to think about death in auto racing, but, when it's your time to die, it's your time to die. When only the good Lord knows when it's your time. And when it's your time, you better be prepared. You better be ready, because it can happen at any given moment in anybody's life.
Well, on that Dan Weldon story, that was the Tuesday afterwards. I was actually flying to Chicago to do a bit of a road trip across doing Route 66, which included going to Vegas. So I was actually happened to be there the week and a half afterwards at the track. Unfortunately, we couldn't get anywhere near the circuit because I know there was a memorial, sort of makeshift memorial there that week or the weeks after, but it was NHRA was on the drag strip, so unfortunately couldn't get close. And then the following Sunday, after Dan's accident, we lost Marco Simoncelli at Sepang in the MotoGP race. That was a horrible fortnight, really, of motorsport heroes. And Dan, I mean, he grew up not 20 minutes from where I'm sat talking to you now, so that was massive. It's still affects me now to some degree. I can't watch the end of that Indy 500 without crying, knowing that was the last race he ever finished, and he was champion again at the Speedway. So it's difficult. We've had the slightly more recent ones, of course, with Jules Suzuka, and Antoine, of course, last year at Spa. It's something that's, you know, comes with the sport. You know, we don't see players of, you know, baseball, football, soccer, tennis, even, you know, having this kind of thing happens to them. It is a motorsport thing, and it says it on every ticket. Motorsport can be dangerous, and often it is. We have such high moments. You think back to Helio winning at the 500 this year, what a massive moment that was. And unfortunately, at the other end of the spectrum, it's when we lose competitors and people that we root for, and people that we're fans of, and people that we love. You know, it's an unfortunate part of the sport.
I guess it is something that you have to process, but it stays with you. You know, it really is something that, as a lover of the sport, and sometimes you know the people, and so it is hard, of course. I think the first time that I really came to in touch with death was when Ayrton Senna died in 1994. I think I was 4 at the time, and I think it was the first time that really I had to come to terms with the concept of death, because I would lose my grandfather the year after that. So it was something kind of new for you know, in life of a child, and that was really probably the first time that I had to come to terms with that concept. And so it is difficult, of course. And then after the years, we do get to know people that sometimes have bad crashes, bad accidents, and it can happen that we lose some competitor. I remember, for example, Sean Edwards, the great GT driver. I had literally seen him a few days before in a test for Porsche Super Cup, and when I read the news a couple of days later that he had died in a tasting accident in Australia, I was like, what? I just seen him. I just spoke with him. You know how this can be real. And of course, then Jules Bianchi more recently, and Antoine Hubert in Formula 2 2 years ago. And I was also on track that day, and it was real. I was not in Spa, but I was in Imola for another race, and I was about to interview another driver, Sophia Flörsch, and I couldn't find her around, and I was just watching another race, Formula 4, just before, so I had not seen live the crash, and I didn't know anything about it. And when I was told that Sophia was in the trailer and that she was not in the emotional state to do an interview, I was like, what happened? And then I saw the news. So it's always shocking, you know. It's something that it stays with you, and when you get to know the people, it's even more surreal. But yeah, it's a sport that has a component of risk, and we get to accept that as a stakeholder, as fan, as sometimes as competitors, and it is what we love, and ultimately it's something that we never think that it can happen, because when you do think about it, you know, it gets you out of that zone, but it definitely is something that has an impact on you long term.
When it comes to fatalities in motorsports, I just know that it's always a danger there, and just the fact that there's no way around it. When we least expect it, we might lose somebody. And I found it personally just harder and harder lately. I remember when I was a child, the first driver I could recall that passed away was J.D. McDuffie. But I was so young at that time where the only reason why I knew he passed away was because I remember the screen. There was a picture of him and the years. And I asked my dad, and my dad told me, well, he died in a car crash. Not too long later, when we lost Alan Kulwicki, that was sort of the first driver where I recognized that he had died, and we're not going to see that number 7 Hooters car on the track. And I remember the uncertainty, especially when we saw the hauler leaving Bristol Motor Speedway, wondering what's going to happen to the team, what's going to happen to the car. Are we ever going to see a number 7 car back in the track? That was the first time, and then sadly we lost Davey Allison later on, and death just became something where it was just like, okay, this is just part of the sport, because that was 1993, 1994, Neil Bonnet, Rodney Orr, Ayrton Senna. I mean, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we lost driver Scott Brayton. It was just something where as a kid, it just seemed like this is just a normal part of the sport. But then after 2001, especially when NASCAR started making big safety advancements, Formula One after Senna's death in 94, making huge advancements, it seems that as we have, thankfully, fewer and fewer fatalities, when they do happen, they just seem to be more, I would say it just brings more hurt and sadness and just makes it hard to process. I don't know if there's just a byproduct of the racing is safer now, and we're getting used to driver just walking away when a driver does pass away. It just hurts more, or is it just something where as I'm getting older, I'm now 37, and just that sense of loss hits me different compared to when I was a child. That would, oh, yeah, I'm sad we lost this driver. We got a lot more racing ahead. Where when Dan Weldon passed away, I was tearing up. I really was just sad to see that day. And just something where I just know it's there, and it's something, wish it wasn't part of the sport, but just like any sport, there's an element of risk. And unfortunately in motorsports, death is that risk that we all got to accept, that no matter how safe the cars is and everything, there's always that possibility the driver won't come back.
Well, for me, I try not to think about that type of stuff. Like Adam said, I mean, I know it's out there. I know that on any given race day that it could happen, where we could see something so terrible happen, and I really get that thought in my mind when NASCAR visits the plate tracks at Daytona and Talladega, or Indy cars on the ovals, or when Formula One is racing at Spa-Francorchamps. Those are really the only moments in motorsports where I feel uneasy about something bad happening, and it's really hard watching somebody lose their life, whether you're watching on television or at the racetrack. Unfortunately, the danger is a part of the sport, and like Ben was saying earlier, I'm really glad that we grew up in an era where they started taking safety more seriously. So we've seen a lot less fatal accidents, and I'm very thankful for that. And recently in open wheel racing, they came up with the halo and the arrows. You had a halo in Formula One. All their feeder series. I now had introduced a halo this year in Indy Lights, and the IndyCar series got the Red Bull Aero screen. And the Red Bull Aero screen, I think we've seen already in just its second season round. It's already saved some lives in the NGT IndyCar series, more than likely. And I'm really glad we have that now, and I really wish we had that Aero screen. Yeah, several years ago, because I think it could have potentially saved Justin Wilson at Pocono. And moving on to a more positive topic, there's a lot to smile about as we get deeper into the 2020s. Next year, we have the NASCAR Next Gen Cup car scheduled to debut in the Cup Series, bringing NASCAR into a new era among other changes. Formula One will have new regulations targeted to improve the racing throughout the field. IndyCar is expecting to introduce hybrid technology, higher horsepower, and they're still actively searching for a third manufacturer. We also have LMDH and LMH in sports car racing. Recently, we received the good news with confirmation of a united prototype regulations. Now we know for a fact that LMDH cars are welcome in the FIA World Endurance Championship and 24 Hours of Le Mans. Then in return, LMH cars will be allowed to compete in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship beginning in 2023. Supercars also debuting a new generation Chevrolet Camaro and Ford Mustang in the second half of 2022 with their own set of new rules. In your opinion, could we be entering a unique golden era for all the major racing series in the world?
I think it's a really exciting time to be a race fan. Sports cars in particular, that's a series or a division that I'm still admittedly not as familiar with, but I've been watching more IMSA recently. I've always watched the 24 Hours of Le Mans the last few years. And, I think what's happening in sports cars in particular is really good for the future of the sport. Formula One, I think it's actually later this week that they're going to fully unveil more info about the new car coming out next year in 2022. IndyCar, you keep hearing rumors about a new manufacturer, a large entry list coming up for the Grand Prix at Nashville, and a lot of young talent in that series as well. I am a little concerned about NASCAR, and I know we talked a little bit about this on Grid Tonight this past weekend, with the drivers, voicing their concerns about what's happening in Atlanta and, safety concerns about the next gen. I think NASCAR has an opportunity, especially with the next gen, to kind of usher in a new era and maybe try to do some things to bring it back into the spotlight, because we know the ratings and attendance figures have been kind of steadily decreasing in recent years. That's the series that I would say I'm most concerned about the future of right now. I think every other series, the ratings for Formula One keep going up. I think the Netflix Drive to Survive series has done wonders. Like I said, IndyCar's got a lot of young talent, so I think it's a really good time to be a race fan. But like I said, NASCAR, I think, again, they have an opportunity to do something really special. But the safety concerns in particular with next gen, there's still not a lot of confirmed reports on where exactly they are yet. But they've announced plans to introduce it next year, and it's an opportunity. They've just got to take it.
For me, as a race fan for a long time, I think it's going to be really cool to see what the future is in motorsports. Like we were just saying, Ben, NASCAR Next Gen cars, Formula One's going to announce, I believe it's tomorrow, they're going to announce their plans for 2022 and beyond. IndyCar, there's a lot of great young talent there. I really love the news about the hyper cars in sports cars. I always watch the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 24 Hours of Daytona, and the 12 Hours of Sebring, and me being the supercars expert here at the Grid Network, I can say that I really love where that series is going. I've seen pictures of what some of the cars are going to look like with the new Chevrolet Camaro and Ford Mustang bodies, and I love it. I think it'll bring more American viewers into the series, because those are two iconic brands that everybody knows here in the United States and around the world, and maybe, hopefully, one day down the road, we'll see an American driver compete full time in the supercar series. I personally think it'd be really cool to see, and for me, being a race fan, I think this would be really cool to see.
I'm mega excited for the next little while in world motorsport. Let's get this COVID finished and out of the way, and we can have full crowds back, because next year we've got Formula One going to their new spec, WRC also going to their new spec, supercars as we've mentioned, and an LM hybrid LMDH global prototype, whatever you want to call it. Those days of 8, 9, 10 years ago of Audi, Porsche and Toyota in the World Endurance Championship, just special days. I remember going to Silverstone. I think I went, must have been 8 or 9 years on the trot to the European Le Mans Series, then World Endurance Championship races at Silverstone. Just fabulous racing. And we've got a couple of big anniversaries coming up, with Nürburgring's 50th anniversary of their 24 hours next year, followed by the 100th running of Le Mans in 23. Big races. Hopefully I'm going to get to both of them, and then I can tick those off in the big 4 24-hour races after been to Spa and been to Daytona. So hopefully I can get across to Europe in the next couple of years. Another thing that COVID needs to sort itself out with, and so we can all travel again. But yeah, massive couple of years coming up. We're going to see, like we saw back in 2009 when F1 had the big change and Brawn ended up winning the championship with Jenson Button. We're going to see some people that we didn't expect to see at the front, cars, teams. It's all going to shuffle around, I feel. And with NASCAR, as I didn't mention that, NASCAR getting their new Cup car next year, it's just going to give us all a massive clean sheet of paper, and we'll see who can, make the best of it and come up with the best ideas from the clean sheet of paper. It's really, really something to look forward to.
I do think that motorsport might be heading into the direction of a new golden era. I think with Formula One, of course, the new regulations are really, really interesting. The cars look great. I think the concepts that we've seen so far. I like the fact that they're going to be a little bit smaller, which for me is really one of the major problems right now. They're huge, these things, and it's way better to redesign the cars in much smaller scale rather than start from scrap with new racetracks. So this is, I think Formula One is heading in a kind of interesting direction, and the same thing for a lot of really interesting feeder series. I'm more into the junior single seaters when I'm following a lot of exciting new talents coming up the ranks. Of course, I'm following firsthand the female drivers. So this is going to be massively exciting to see W Series where it's going into the next couple of years. I'm really interested to see how the women. There's an interesting movement for women in endurance racing, of course, in the WEC, in the LMS. Possibly in IMSA. It's really interesting that WEC and IMSA are trying to merge. I would say that to have some common ground with the regulations. Also DTM, of course, when it's going into the direction of GT3, but of course there are plans for electric DTM, which the concept that we've seen so far is really, really cool, and that's going to be massively exciting. IndyCar in the US, I'm super excited about IndyCar. A lot of talents going from Europe to the United States, not as a plan B, but really to find their path in single seaters in a very, very competitive championship. But also why not other series that are carrying momentum, like Super Formula in Japan, or other GT championships. There are so many interesting movements and so many interesting drivers that I'll be looking forward to see where they're going in the next couple of years. And of course, if this whole COVID situation is getting a little bit more under control, and we are going to get to travel a little bit more freely, because now I am traveling, of course, but it's quite messy. It's if before what did you had like 2 minutes, now it takes like 2 hours of paperwork. So it is kind of a big deal now. So definitely trying for the whole world, of course. If this situation can get a little bit more under control, that will be really ideal.
Definitely the future is very exciting for motorsports, where we're seeing here in the United States with NASCAR, internationally with Formula One, the LMDH program. This, I think, is going to be the new renaissance in motorsports. We're pushing the technology of automobiles to the future of less fossil fuels, electric vehicles, alternative fuels. And just about everyone's really pushing for that. Along with that, we're also looking at components of how to make the competition better. I think a lot of racing series know we can't just rest on we're pushing technology and attract the masses, but we got to have some entertainment value. I know that's a very hot topic. Some people just want focus on the racing. We're not an entertainment. Some people want more entertaining races. You've got to find that big balance. And I think there are some organizations that I personally feel have found that balance and are going to have great products, great racing ahead. There are some that they still need to work on it. Where is their lineup? What's entertaining? What's great racing? What's genuine competition? But overall, I just feel like the racing, especially across the grid ranking, it looks like all those series are going to have phenomenal futures ahead when it comes to the new ideas, the new cars that we're seeing proposed for 2022 and beyond.
This is definitely an exciting time to be a motorsports fan. And next, I'm going to ask a different question to each member of today's discussion, starting with you, Ben. I want to ask you about your Philadelphia 76ers. I know you probably didn't have the season you wanted for your favorite NBA team. At least you did better than my Charlotte Hornets. Honestly, you really don't have to try hard to achieve that. The only bright spot we have going for us at the moment is the NBA Rookie of the Year and the new face of the franchise, LaMelo Ball. However, for your team, lots of questions about the direction of the franchise moving forward. I don't know too much about the 76ers situation, but I'm sure you'll fill me in. But I do know there's a lot of questions about Ben Simmons and his future with the team. He turned down an invitation to play in the Tokyo Summer Olympics with the Boomers, the Australian national team, to focus on further developing his skills. What happened to cause the team's downfall in the playoffs? And what's next for the team and Ben Simmons? Will he stay or get traded?
Well, to be honest with you, in terms of the regular season, it was exactly what we wanted. To be the number one seed in Philadelphia for the first time in 20 years when they went to the finals with Allen Iverson. But I don't know what happened in the playoff series against the Hawks. Doc Rivers did it again. I was very excited when he was coming on board. I think he was major improvement over Brett Brown. Not that was hard to do, unfortunately, but I really, in hindsight, think we should have pursued Tyronn Lue a little bit more. At the time, I think I would have taken Doc Rivers just because he's a little more experienced. And say what you will about Tyronn Lue's championship in Cleveland. How much coaching was LeBron James actually doing for that team, and pretty much single handedly. I mean, I shouldn't say that because Kyrie hit that shot in Game 7, but to take down the 73-9 Warriors. But he is an NBA champion, and what he did with the Clippers this year, is just phenomenal to get them to test a very good Phoenix Suns team that could well be the NBA champions this year, push them to 6 games in the conference finals. I don't think anybody expected that. But you bring up Ben Simmons. I really just don't even want to talk about the situation with him right now. Shooting 34% from the free throw line. I mean, put me in, Doc. I can't do anything else, but I'll give you at least 38% from the free throw line. So, I know they say they're committed to working on his shot this summer. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough for me to envision seeing him back. I mean, the backlash was just so massive after the playoff collapse against the Hawks. He only had 5 points in the last game and gave up a wide open, really a wide open dunk. I think he was just afraid to go to the free throw line. So I think, there's got to be some changes coming to Philadelphia. I think really the only 2 players that I kind of need to see back, for me to feel good about the team are Joel Embiid and Seth Curry. Everybody else, I like Dwight Howard, but, I think in reality, he provides a little bit of a spark off the bench, but he's not the same player he was in Orlando. So, I feel like a window is open for the Sixers to win a championship and compete. But, if this playoff collapse against Atlanta was any indication, something's got to happen with Ben Simmons, whether he gets traded or fixes his shot, the status quo wasn't going to work.
Adam, everyone knows you're the supercars expert here. What they may not know is you have a deep passion for bowling. My question for you, how do you discover your passion for supercars, and what's the thing you love the most about bowling?
Well, for me, I discovered the supercars thanks to the old Speed Vision channel. I'm an all-around fan of motorsport, not only here in the United States, but across the world. I used to watch the British Touring Car Championship and the DTM, also known as the German Touring Car Championship, on a regular basis. Somehow, something clicked for me when I watched the supercars. There are names that I can remember watching, like former champions Mark Scaife, Russell Ingall, Greg Murphy, and both those drivers are going to be competing at the Bathurst 1000 this year, which is going to be really cool to see for fans like me. I've watched supercars for over 20 years. I will stay awake to the wee hours in the morning to watch supercars on my computer. I have a lot of friends who live in Australia and New Zealand who know that very well. As you can tell by my stuff here and behind me, I am a huge supercars fan. I have friends who have given me stuff over the years. I have bought stuff online over the years. One of my favorite teams is, there you go, the Red Bull and Full Racing team. I am a huge fan of Jamie Whincup and Jamie Van Gisbergen. And when it comes to my passion for the sport of bowling, I've been watching the PBA chart, the Professional Bowlers Association, for over 30 years. I started watching as a young child living in New Hampshire. I can remember such names as Mark Roth, Marshall Holman, Walter Ray Williams Jr., Amleto Monticelli from Venezuela, and many, many others. And as a kid, I had a dream that I wanted to attend an event. Well, in 2015, I got that dream, became a reality. I got on an airplane. I flew from Knoxville, Tennessee to Charlotte, North Carolina to Indianapolis, Indiana. And I saw the 2015 PBA Tour Tournament of Champions, which is one of their most signature events. I was there for a week. I got a chance to meet people that I really wanted to meet as a young kid. And I can say I've traveled all over the country to see the best bowlers in the world compete. Not only have I been to Indianapolis, Indiana, I've been to Reno, Nevada twice for the World Series of Bowling, which is a 2-week event where they have different oil patterns for different events, which is really cool to see. I've been to Shawnee, Oklahoma for the Oklahoma Open. When I went, it was over the 4th of July weekend. And through the last 4 years, I've been to Portland, Maine to see the PBA Tour in action. Being in Portland, Maine is really special for me because I lived in New Hampshire for 13 years, and in 2018, I went up there for the first time in over 20 years, and I got a chance to, and that atmosphere up there, you could put that atmosphere in a college football game, college basketball game, and at a NASCAR race at Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee, and that crowd is absolutely nuts. The PBA Tour loves going to Bayside Bowl. I've gotten the opportunity to meet so many people from the sport. I have a lot of really good friends that through social media that I've met in person. They've treated me with so much respect every time I've gone to see the PBA Tour, whether it be announcers, the commissioner, Tom Clark, the associate commissioner and CEO, Coley Edison. I know a lot of the bowlers, families, passionate fans like me, and they've all treated me with so much respect. And I was just in Maine a couple weeks ago. That's why I wasn't hosting Grid Tonight 1 week of Kobe. So I look forward to going back to Portland, Maine next year, seeing all my friends again. And it's truly an overall blessing for me that I'm able to do this.
Matt, I was the third member to join Grid Network. Joe was obviously the first, being the founder, and you were the second, but you're also the founder of the Grid World Motorsport League, and you've been working closely with Joe for a while now. How did you and Joe meet, and what's the story behind the creation of the Grid World Motorsport League?
Well, I just stumbled across Joe, I suppose you could say, on Twitter at the back end of 2018. It was coming into NASCAR playoff time, I believe, and he must have even popped up on my timeline somehow or some way, because I wasn't following the Grid account. So got following, got involved. Joe reached out and asked if there was anyone of the followers that was able to maybe join the team and help out, and obviously jumped at the chance because the system that he had going was something that interested me. Through that winter into 2019, we got talking about adding some new championships to the grid ranking, and we went with the World Rally Championship because I thought it was something a little bit different to obviously the circuit-based stuff that dominates the scoring. So we got that involved, and I was chief scorer. I still am chief scorer for WRC for the grid ranking, and fill those spreadsheets out and get them across to Joe after every round. And with the spreadsheet in my files, I just had a little play with it one day and thought, well, maybe we can do something here. Obviously, we had the grid ranking, but maybe there was something more we could do with it, and came up with the idea of the Grid World Motorsport League. And a bit more. Obviously we've got MotoGP in grid ranking, but we've got some bike stuff with World Superbikes, and it's more of the endurance side of things for guys around the world in there, and obviously being here in the UK, we've got a couple of British-based championships with British Superbike and British Touring Cars. So it was a chance to do something a little bit different with it, and on a similar way in terms of scoring, but added more people in. I think the spreadsheet going on at the moment has got maybe 1,500 drivers in it, and we've added in the Grid World Motorsport League, we've added W Series this year to the scoring. So that was one of our new championships, along with the Asian Le Mans Series, which of course ran during the European winter. So that got us off to the start this year with DTM, with their change of rule set. I was going to push it to one side a little bit because I wasn't sure how it was going to play out, but then once they started getting the entries for the new GT3 era of DTM, it was hard to ignore, so we brought that back. It's a big job getting all the results put on there, and we've had some difficulties along the way, but it seems to be running smoothly now, and it's great to do it every week and sit at the laptop and put all the information in and get it posted up on Twitter every Monday. And great to be part of the team and help out on these shows and bits and pieces as well with stuff. So yeah, it was an opportunity that Joe gave to me, which I'm grateful for, and hopefully we can keep going with how we are for what will be now. This is the third year of it, and looking forward to, already with half the year still to go, we're looking forward to season 4 next year.
Daniel, I've always wanted to know what it's like to follow motorsports around the world while living in Europe. Sometimes I wish I could live in Europe for just a year to see what it's like. Here in the United States, you see most NASCAR, IndyCar, and IMSA races taking place in the afternoon, so it's not hard to follow. If we want to watch Formula One, we often have to wake up early in the mornings and stay up late at night to catch the supercars action down under. And for you in Europe, looking at things vice versa, the supercars races are on very, very early in the mornings. If you have to work early on Monday mornings, you might have to miss the end of the NASCAR Cup Series races to get some sleep so you'll be fresh for the next morning. But most Formula One races come on at a decent time for you. I know I'll be glad when they return to this side of the world, racing in the United States, Mexico, and Brazil. How difficult is it to follow racing around the world from Europe? Are there any tracks that you want to visit in the U.S. someday?
Well, I would say that motorsport in general, it is quite a big sport in Europe. It is followed, especially in the UK and in Italy, or obviously. But while in the UK, you have like really passionate fans watching every kind of motorsport. In Italy, there's Ferrari, which is like the big thing, and then all the rest is like, yes, it's there, but it's not really important. Of course, when you're a real motorsport fan, you would like to see as many series, as many drivers, as many cars as possible. So here where I live, especially, there are really, really passionate Formula One fans. But not a lot of people know or follow all the racing series that, of course, I'm following. Well, you get that a little bit more in the UK, now a little bit more also in the north of Europe, like also like in the Netherlands, for example. That's quite big sport now that they have Max Verstappen to follow. But also in Germany, for example, or Denmark, or from Austria, for example. These kind of countries there is some good fan base for motor racing in general. And speaking about the timing, for example, you have like early races in Asia or in Australia, for example, or very late in the days. You can see IndyCar or NASCAR. There is a little bit more of a growing fan base here for IndyCar and NASCAR. But still, I think who wants to follow the many series that we have now? They do find a way. You know, there are the biggest followed sport here in Italy. It's football, what you guys call soccer, and that is massive. But Formula One, I would say that it's probably up there. But the other series of motor racing, they are more of a niche sport. And so who follows ELMS, for example, or all the feeder categories, the Formula 3 and the series like GT, DTM, which is big in Germany, of course, or GT Open, these kind of series. They're more of a niche sport, and so people that really want to see it, they will find a way. We have now streams on YouTube that are amazing to watch. Well, you think that, for example, just like 10 years ago, it would have been possible to get all the access to the data and to the streams and to the live timings that we have now. So I think it's a great moment in time for fans of motor racing, and also to go on track. It's not that difficult here. For example, here in Italy, in the north of Italy, we have a lot of great racetracks. We have Monza, we have Imola, Mugello, Misano. A lot of great tracks, and but also in the UK, of course, there's so many outstanding racetracks like Silverstone, Brands Hatch, Alton Park, Thruxton, you name it. There are some Donington and so many, but in Germany, and then there are, you know, a lot of great tracks that people can just go and well, in pre-COVID era at least, and have a great Sunday. But of course now, with events going underway behind closed doors, it's not great. I've been on track quite a lot in the past couple of years, and it's not great to see empty grandstands. But yeah, hopefully we will get to see some audience again. And for regarding your question about tracks in the US, of course, that would be a huge dream of mine to travel there and to see some races. I've never been there. Interestingly, I would love to see some IndyCar. I really would love to see some IndyCar. Of course, the Indy 500 is really high on my list of events that I would like to attend once this whole situation is a little bit more under control. But of course, there's so many interesting tracks also for IMSA. Maybe Watkins Glen or Long Beach, or I mean, so many interesting tracks. VAR, for example, so many, and really old style. I like that. Yeah, we do have, of course, some historic tracks in Europe, but they changed quite a lot in the past couple of in the last decade or so. While in the US, there have been a more preserved, or I think, or at least this is what I feel. So yes, I would totally love to go to the US and attend some races in the near future.
Joe, a couple of months ago, we had to go through a transition here at Grid Network for a while as you got settled in at your full-time day job as a city manager in Oregon. Can you take us through a day in the life of a city manager, explaining what you're doing for a living outside of Grid Network?
Being a city manager is a huge honor. one of the big things, we all know there's a mayor. A mayor is usually the head of the municipal government. What a city manager does is takes some of the roles and responsibilities that a mayor would have and places it on a city manager. The city manager is usually hired by the city council and the mayor. They serve essentially the role that the mayor will do when it comes to managing the city. So a lot of times it's just managing projects that the city may have, enforcing our codes of ordinances, which are essentially our municipal laws, ensuring our public utilities, our departments are all living up to the standards they work by. And of course, as any municipal government, you got all sorts of balances when it comes to what's good for the community. What do the residents want? What do your businesses want? All sorts of things that you got to manage. One of the big things I've always joked, there's an organization, International City Manager Association, ICMA. I always say it refers to I can manage anything. Being a city manager, there's never a dull day. There are some routine days where it's like, okay, you just do the routine task, getting things ready for the city council meeting. But overall, it's just something where I truly enjoy meeting residents, talking about what can we do as a city, meeting businesses, what can we do to improve business municipal government relationship, hearing ideas from our city council, our businesses, our residents, and working towards making those goals possible. It is just something I truly enjoy. The policy making aspect, recognizing outstanding work by residents, it's just a very rewarding field and definitely something if anybody ever wants to chat about, more than happy to.
For myself, I decided to Google random question generator to come up with a question for me to answer. And here's the question they came up with on the internet. When was the most inappropriate time you busted out in laughter? Oh my goodness. In the eighth grade, this is gonna sound really terrible. And guys, I promise I am not a terrible person at all. But in eighth grade, it was September 11th, and the teacher was showing us coverage of the 9/11 terrorist attacks that day, and right in the middle of the towers falling, my friend told me something funny, and I busted out laughing as the twin towers were falling in New York on the projector. So that was really bad. And a teacher came over to me and my friends, and he was like, "Do you want to go tell the principal why you think it's funny to watch airplanes fly into buildings and people die in front of your eyes?" And I'm thinking, oh, this does not look good at all for us. But trust me, I do understand the severity of the situation and how awful that day was. One of the most awful days in American history. My friend just picked the wrong time to make a joke, and I laughed at the most inappropriate time there. And my teacher probably thought that we were some really bad people to be laughing when he was trying to show us such a serious moment. And next, we're gonna play a little game called This or That. And here are the rules, everyone. I'll give you two options, and you pick which one best represents you. After stating your answer, give a brief description on why you chose that option, but don't go too long because we have a lot of people to go through. You know the rules, so here we go. And starting with you, Ben, introvert or extrovert?
I guess I'd say introvert. Despite this kind of hobby I've got for broadcasting myself through Grid and on social media. I tend to be a little quieter until I get to know people. So that would be my answer.
I'm an extrovert. I like to meet. I really like to meet new people, tell them who I am and where I work, and it's just really cool to meet new people.
Well, definitely introvert. I don't drink, so growing up, when everyone was going to the bars and the pubs and the clubs, I was quite happily sat at home on a Friday watching free practice on repeat for MotoGP or F1 or something like that. So yeah, definitely introvert.
Definitely introvert. I would say that when I'm at home in a paddock with people loving motor racing, and that with them, I'm definitely an extrovert. And when I'm conducting an interview, for example, I can pass a little bit like an extrovert, but with people totally outside of my bubble, I am totally an introvert. As I said, I studied film school, and I did also photography, reportage photography, documentary stuff. And that was really something that taught me how to approach people and stick a camera in front of their faces. So was definitely something that helped me also in my journalistic work afterwards. But yeah, definitely an introvert, I would say.
Extrovert. I know during the pandemic it was really hard just staying at home, but I've definitely been somebody where I enjoy meeting new people, getting engaged, learning about new things, and just something where there are days where I'll enjoy just staying at home, taking it easy. I'm not in my 20s no more. I'm not somebody that wants to go clubbing, music all night, but definitely is just something where I enjoy networking with people, meeting new people, learning. Definitely an extrovert.
Well, I'm definitely an introvert. I'm the type of guy you see at a party who's sitting on a corner by himself, not speaking to anyone while everyone's up dancing. So that's definitely me. Hot dogs or hamburgers?
Oh, this is tough. But I think I'm gonna have to go with hamburgers just because I tend to enjoy them a little bit more often.
Hamburgers. I love them. I really enjoy them a lot, especially with a lot of ketchup and sometimes barbecue sauce.
Hot dogs. This isn't the question, is it? Surely it's got to be hot dogs all the way.
Hot dogs, definitely. Yeah, that's for me.
Both of them are really good, but I'm definitely a burger person. I enjoy some of my favorite burgers: In-N-Out Burger, up in Alaska, Arctic Roadrunner, the Mexican burger there, red salsa, a nice green chili pepper on top of a burger. So delicious. Home, that's my big specialty, is just making really good creative burgers. I truly enjoy the diversity of burgers that you see out there eating across. I mean, from my time in South Carolina, when I ever travel, I usually try to find a local burger place, try it out. Local burger places definitely encourage folks. Check out your local burger place. A lot of times better than what you see at the national chains.
Oh, that's such a tough decision because I love hamburgers and hot dogs, but I think I'll go with hamburgers. You can go to McDonald's, order me a double quarter pounder with cheese, ketchup, mustard, a small fry, and a medium sweet tea, and I'll be a really happy person. High downforce, excuse me, high horsepower, low downforce, or low horsepower, high downforce.
This isn't even a question. It's high horsepower and low downforce. I'm not the kind of guy that you'll see wearing a big motor, small blade shirt, but it's the principle of cutting horsepower that really gets under my skin. And also, I think more times often than not, the racing isn't as good when you have a ladder. So I'm going to go with the former.
High horsepower, low downforce. I love to hear all the engines scream and revving, and it's just, I love the noise, I love the excitement, and I love the power.
Definitely high horsepower and low downforce, because you get to see the drivers who, when we've got no downforce, they're the guys that are wrestling the beasts around. You think of NASCAR a little bit with their kind of the news cycle of what's been going on the last couple of years with packages. Supercars, they've got no downforce on, relatively speaking, whatsoever. And we get to see the drivers working there, especially when it's wet. And things like WRC, where it's on a loose surface. Okay, they've got more downforce over the last few years, but it's definitely a high power, low downforce for me. That's
a tricky question for me. I would say high power, low downforce. It's fun. When I was racing in karting, of course, go-karts, you know, the ones when you do the big championships, they're not massive power, but of course the weight power ratio is great. So I would say that the thing that I enjoy the most is the weight power ratio. But of course, I loved driving sideways quite a lot, and that's fun. But also turns out that I haven't driven many high downforce cars. Of course, I haven't not driven formula cars in my life. But it turns out that from what I've been told quite a lot, that it's really fun in cornering speed, and you can definitely see that. So I think that's a tricky question, but for me, not having the direct experience of driving a high downforce car, I would go with the high horsepower. But as I said, the thing that I enjoy the most is the weight power ratio.
Easily high horsepower, less downforce. Make the driver work in that vehicle. I know when I did dirt track racing, driving street stock class, that was so much fun, just working that car through the corner, sliding, throttling it. It was so much of a challenge. It's just not the same when it's just full throttle. Especially growing up playing NASCAR racing, that was a challenge, was those road courses. But too often it was just, okay, you go online to the lobby. Well, Aaron was at Talladega. There's like maybe 3 people at Sears Point Sonoma racing. So definitely I know there's a good cause for, you know, the low horsepower, high downforce. But I'm somebody where I prefer having that horsepower, low downforce, and a challenge of being on the fine edge of control with the automobile.
I'm on the high horsepower, low downforce train. I really like it when it's put in the driver's hands. I don't really like to see NASCAR on the mile and a half going full throttle around Atlanta, Texas, Kansas, wherever they're racing at. I just really enjoy seeing the 750 horsepower and low downforce package over the low horsepower, high downforce. Early bird or night owl?
It depends for me. You know, I feel like I can be either, honestly. If the current situation needs me to stay up later at night to get something done, or I need to be up early to be somewhere, you know, I can adapt pretty easily.
I agree with Ben. You know, I work a lot in the morning, so yes, I can say I stay awake a lot to watch supercars because I am a supercars expert. So if I had to choose, probably be night owl for me.
Well, as many as you know, I've got a 2-year-old, and she does not like sleeping in. So definitely early bird for me. And in the odd occasion she does sleep in and I'm awake at 5:30, wide awake, then I'll get downstairs and put the telly on and find some cars to watch.
It's going to be night owl for me. I think when I'm alone at night, in the middle of the night, I sometimes have the best ideas and I have the most energy to write stuff. So yeah, I actually think that when I'm early in the morning, I am more I do more things. But I do the best things when in the night.
I used to be a night owl, up 3 a.m., 4 a.m. But now, especially when I'm trying to watch MotoGP or Formula One races, I gotta be up at 5 a.m. I'm all the way here in the West Coast, and of course, when I was in Alaska, 5 a.m. race would be a 4 a.m. race. So definitely a morning person now, but definitely, if I wasn't doing this, I probably would still be a night owl.
Without a doubt, I am definitely a night owl. My sleep schedule is so crazy, and I've been doing this for over a year since the start of the pandemic. I really don't go to sleep until like 3, 4, or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm up at like 10 or 11 to start my day. So I'm definitely a night owl. I'm catching all the morning news in Europe. Sometimes I wonder if I'm better suited to be living in Europe. Do you prefer texting or talking on the phone?
Most times I probably say talking on the phone just because you can get more out quicker, and the other person gets back to you sooner. So just for the pace of conversation alone, I'd go with talking on the phone.
Talking on the phone with me easily. Texting, no way. Talking on the phone is a lot easier for me.
I've had a couple of jobs where all I did was talk to people on the phone, seemingly. So it gets old. Texting is much quicker. Sometimes you can't quite get your point across, as we learn from social media as well sometimes. But definitely texting for me is just far easier.
I would say texting because I'm someone that likes to have control of every single word. Before sending an email, a text message, or even like a WhatsApp or stuff like that, I'm like perfectly balancing every word. So it's going to be texting for me, even though, of course, phone calls are sometimes easier. There is much more of a direct relationship with one another. You get much more nuances from a conversation. But if I get to choose, I would go with texting.
I would say that's a hard one. There are days where it's like, okay, I could just text, like, yeah, sure, done, thumbs up, good. And then there's some times where I just enjoy chatting with folks, particularly on speakerphone. I'm not one to enjoy just holding up the cell phone for a long time, but if I could just be lazy, put you on speakerphone, I don't mind chatting. Usually I'll talk to folks about once a week on the phone, but I have really no preference. But I would just say, chat on the phone, I guess, would be my preferred, if somebody wanted to catch up method, not just texting back and forth for hours.
I absolutely hate talking on the phone unless it's an important phone call and you try to call my phone. I'm probably not going to answer it. I'd rather just text and take my time throughout the day. I understand people really like for you to get back as soon as possible, but I'm definitely more so of a texter than a talker on the phone. Twitter or Facebook?
Twitter, 100%. The only reason I really still have Facebook is because I don't really see any need to delete my account, and there are some people that are only on Facebook that I want to keep up with, but Twitter and Instagram as well. Is where I spend most of my time these days.
Twitter, easily for me. I have a lot more friends on. I believe I know a lot more people on Twitter than I do Facebook, and I just really love that account. And what Twitter needs one day is an edit button, because it'd be a lot easier on all of us.
Definitely Twitter, just quick, simple, and everything's seemingly instant. As soon as something breaks, it's there, and you can see it news-wise. Facebook's great, don't get me wrong, but I'm definitely more of a Twitter person. Facebook's more of a family thing, and Twitter's more of a car thing.
I think there are different tools for different targets and different and to be used in different manners. So I am more of for Twitter actually. I do prefer the concept of Twitter. But yes, I think Facebook has some good features. It helps with sometimes with some of its of the groups and stuff like that. But yes, for me, it's going to be Twitter.
Definitely Twitter. Facebook, this definitely evolved from when I first joined, where it was just college students only, to now there's a lot of family there where it's impossible for me to delete my Facebook profile. Twitter, I enjoy the motorsports community, especially finding friends in local government as well. Talk about policies, ideas. but definitely when it comes to being online, whether it's municipal government, motorsports, for me, it's Twitter.
I definitely prefer Twitter over Facebook. Twitter is where I post a lot of my professional work and post all of the race updates, results, and all of that. And overall, the experience is just a lot better than Facebook. To be honest, I don't really get on Facebook much unless I'm sharing content from the podium finish or Grid Network, and I really try to stay away from the comment section because it really seems like a cesspool nowadays. Reading all of those comments from all of the quote unquote experts on whatever topic up for discussion at the time. Coffee or tea?
I think I'm going to say neither. To be honest with you, I drink a lot of soda. That's kind of my go-to beverage, and I like lemonade every now and then, but not really a big coffee or tea guy.
Coffee. I love my Starbucks every day. I drink one at least once a day. I can say I like my Starbucks coffee easily.
Neither. Surprisingly, coming from tea drinking England, I'll go with neither. I'll have an orange juice or a milk or a water or anything like that. But yeah, no coffee or tea for me, thanks.
I'm a big tea lover, actually. Yeah, I really like teas. When I'm traveling, I try to also to buy some local stuff or some local tea. I kind of really enjoy it. Once I also, that's a curious fact, I looked up for, I think, like sommelier. There are, the people that knows a lot about wines. I discovered that there was not far from where I live, a school that teaches you to be like a tea sommelier. And was really interesting for a moment. And then, of course, I was like too busy to even get some information. But yeah, I'm definitely a tea drinker.
I'm a coffee person. I started, first time I drank coffee, I think it was like 7th or 8th grade. Always enjoyed it. It just keeps me going. And every morning when it's like, okay, Formula One's at 5 a.m. or MotoGP at 5 a.m., I got the coffee cup going, and I'll be up till about 10 p.m. and then go to sleep. So definitely need the coffee. I enjoy good teas. There are some really wonderful teas out there, but I need coffee every day.
This may surprise you, but in my 22 years of life, I've never had a cup of coffee before. Never at all. I'm a Southern boy, so I gotta have my sweet tea, and that's definitely my go-to drink. I have half a gallon sweet tea sitting in my refrigerator right now as we speak. Are you more likely to tell someone the brutal truth or tell them a lie to protect them?
Oh man, we're getting kind of serious here. I don't know. I think you always, at the end of the day, you always have to be honest with people. I never want to tell a lie. I can understand maybe not telling something to somebody if it's an important or sensitive situation. But if I had to choose, I think I'd want to be honest with people.
I'm the same way. I like telling the truth. I always have. I always will. A lot of people know that from me because they know I can be really truthful with them, and that's the way I've always been.
Oh, this is tricky, isn't it? Because it depends what the thing is. Generally, for me, it is true because if you lie, you've got to keep the lie going. And if you get found out, then it's egg on your face. So yeah, I'd sway towards truth more than lying, definitely.
Really challenging question. I think that as someone that works in the media, that's a really relevant question because, of course, you have the responsibility of telling the truth and finding the truth and discovering the things that are behind the truth. But especially in sports communication, it's not that you have to to tell lies. Of course, it's never lies, but sometimes you do have to omit something. You do have to get your version out of something, and even to protect a driver or a team, for example. There are things that you know, but you are not, it's not that you are not allowed to say, but that you choose not to say, because of course there will have repercussions on someone that you care about, or also for example, drivers that have put their trust in you. And so, of course, it's your responsibility to protect them and protect your relationship with them, your work relationship with them. And so, I would say that it's really tricky. Of course, telling the truth is what, it's the ultimate goal for journalists. But sometimes you do have to omit something.
I'll say the brutal truth, especially if it's just to protect them. One of the big things I've been known to just say a lie just to make it easy, like rather than try to explain something complex, just a simple lie, especially if it's more harmless. But definitely I'm somebody where I'm used to telling a mayor, city council member, state politician even the brutal truth, because especially when I'm in that role, they trust me for my judgment in governing. I would be doing this as a service a lot, just protect them. So I think I got more experience when it comes to, hey, I got to tell you this, you're not going to like it. But I've been known to, I don't feel like explaining this. I'll just make a white lie and just go with it.
Oh man, that is definitely a tough one for me, because I like being honest with people when it's a really serious situation, but at the same time I don't want to disappoint someone or hurt their feelings. I know this might sound bad, but but if I knew my buddy was cheating on his girlfriend or wife, and I don't know if I would tell her about it, because I know she'll be really heartbroken to find that out. But I do think it's important to tell the truth, and also at some point, hey, I always wonder, is it worth telling the truth and potentially creating tension, or telling a lie so they don't find it out? For me, but it's definitely a really hard question, and it really was a lot of fun playing this or that. But let's get back to a more serious topic. As everyone knows, we've been in a global pandemic for over a year now. I remember when the World Health Organization said we were in a pandemic. Then came all the lockdowns and living at home under quarantine. During that time, I learned so much about myself. I understand it was a pretty depressing time for many people all over the world. Life as we knew it, taken away from us at the blink of an eye. My college experience ended without warning. My internship with my university social media department suddenly ended, and I was a finalist for a big time internship in sports that eventually got canned. Yes, I spent several months upset over every negative thing that happened to me. I felt like I was just taking L after L. However, I was able to regroup, reset my mindset, and try to salvage something from this unpleasant experience. Looking at where I am today, I think I'll emerge from the pandemic a stronger person than I was before the pandemic occurred. And here's my question for everybody: what's something you learned about yourself during the pandemic?
I guess I just learned not to take the little things for granted, like, being able to go down to your local non-essential business. That was really hard for me in the second part of March and April, first half of May last year. That kind of 6 to 8 week period that, the vast majority of the country was shut down. So that was tough. And also, I've been very fortunate not to have lost a family member to COVID-19. I know a lot of people haven't been that fortunate. So just appreciating your loved ones and your family, and the opportunities that you have, and not taking them for granted, I think would be the biggest lesson for me to come out of this whole situation.
For me, I work at a grocery store, so it was very hard for me because I didn't know what to expect during this time. But I came through it a stronger person, a better person, and knowing know what I know now. Last year I wasn't able to do a lot. I wasn't able to see my friends on the PBA tour like I wanted to, but I still had my friends from all over the world that were caring about me, and that really brought me through a lot. We did have some people where I work test positive for COVID-19, and it was really hard. A lot of so I came through this stronger, better person, and that I know I can be, in the months and years to come.
Not really sure I could narrow it down to one thing. I was off from work for, it's probably getting on for 100. I think it was just over 100 days between being at work and going back to work in my day job. I can tell you one thing: with no racing on in that beginning of the season period, March, April, just as everything's beginning to build and it was all shut down, that was horrible. And that was not nice at all to be sat at home with no sport to watch. Well, not just racing, but no sport to watch at all was horrible. But we made the best of it. We've got my daughter was just over 1 at the time, so it was great to have some extra time with her to see her grow. I was there to see her first steps and things like that, which, if I was at work, that wouldn't have been. Thankfully, everybody I know or close to have been safe. We've all had kind of different versions. We're all spread across the globe in this, our little grid network family, but we've all had different versions of lockdown in terms of time. But I don't think I've picked up anything specifically apart from it sucks not to be watching racing when there probably should be. It's a weekend and there's nothing to watch.
That's another tricky question. For me personally, I had COVID at the very beginning of the pandemic, actually in April 2020, and I was still in a time where it was kind of the discoveries about the disease were still coming out in a fast progression, so things were moving quickly. I had like all my family in the hospital for COVID, because I had one of my close when my sister was working in the hospital in that at the time of the year, and pretty much every one of us got it, and luckily I was not in hospital, but I was isolating at the house alone, like in one room or 2 rooms, because other people were isolating in other rooms. We were not allowed to get in contact because someone had to get groceries outside. So it was messy. I would say I was like 60 days alone in 2 rooms, and that was tough, with nothing to do. No work. Of course, I'm self-employed, so no work means no income. No sports to see, no motor racing. We had like I had quite a rough time at the beginning. It was not pleasant at all. And then, of course, the war that stopped all the uncertainty around work. When especially traveling is a big part of your work, when events are a big part of your work, that was not fun. And but something that I think that most of the big things, the big picture, we are still too much into it to really grasp what are the consequences long time about society, for example. I would say that maybe stuff like that we will get a grasp of what it meant for society, like in 10 years time, probably. But what I learned from a personal point of view is probably now almost 2 years after, is to enjoy the little things that we gave for granted, we took for granted, like going on a plane, for example. It was like a bother. It was like, yeah, all the stuff, the check-in, you have to be early, whatever. Then you have some passenger on your side that it's chatting all the time when you just would like to relax. That's something that when we're not on a plane for 1 year, and then you get to finally to fly again, to travel, that's something that you extra enjoy, and or even just meeting someone that you hadn't met in a long time, and go to a pub with a friend. Something that we definitely took for granted. And yeah, probably that's the biggest thing that I took from this situation.
I would say during the global pandemic, one of the big things I sort of learned about myself was really sort of how this pandemic had highlighted the inequality we see, or in this case, didn't see before. I went through 16 and a half months without a job. Not a lot of people in my situation could do what I did, where, I applied for jobs I truly wanted in my career. I took my spare time as well to be on YouTube with the Grid Network, expanding my computer skills. And that was because while people could say, oh, you did all this when you were unemployed, Joe. Well, yeah, but here's the thing. My wife had a job where she could cover rent. She could cover the car payments. With the pandemic, we had a bonus unemployment paycheck. I had resources for, making the best out of it. And not everyone has that resource. If I didn't have my wife to support us, if I wasn't eligible for unemployment, things would have been a lot different. I would have to settle for a job I would have not wanted, probably pay less money. I think that's why I tell a lot of folks is like, look, there was a lot of privileges I had in this pandemic that other people don't have. And I really just try to explain how, I might look like, oh, you made it out of the pandemic great. I did, but I didn't do it alone. My wife was definitely somebody that helped us get through, and just something where I think people really need to realize that there is a huge gap between the privileged and the unprivileged, especially here in the United States.
For me, what I learned the most about myself is I'm a lot stronger than I give myself credit for. Even in situations that may not seem serious, sometimes I feel like I completely lose my composure. I get upset and I think the whole world is falling around me. But during the pandemic, during uncertain times, I think I really proved to myself that I'm a fighter. I'm resilient. I can do anything I put my mind to. And despite all of the setbacks I faced professionally during the pandemic, I think I'm set up now to face obstacles in a much better way. And instead of getting down, keep on pushing forward, keep working hard, and eventually all the stars will align the way it's supposed to be. And in life, we all go through a lot of ups and downs, wins and losses, happiness and heartbreak. Sometimes we experience regret. In your personal life, if you had a chance to rewind and do something all over again, what's that one thing you deeply regret and wish things turned out differently?
Kobe, I got to be honest with you. I don't mean to say this, in an arrogant sense of the word or anything. I'm far from perfect, but I really can't think of anything. I've had a very blessed life, and I'm happy where I am right now, and I've got some good opportunities coming up, especially right through what we're doing right now at Grid Network. So I've been very blessed. I wouldn't say that I've had any major regrets that I would be willing to turn back the clock and change. I don't think I'd go back to change a thing.
I'm with Ben. I've been blessed beyond my wildest dreams. I don't regret anything in my life. I've had, my life has had its ups and downs, especially working at a grocery store for as long as I have. I've been through a lot. I've worked at 2 grocery stores one that's closed and one I've been at since 2019. I don't regret a thing. I have enjoyed my life completely. Thanks to this, I've been able to connect with people like Kobe, Ben, Joe, Matt, Daniel, that have the same passion for motorsports as I do. And thanks to my passion for the sport of bowling, I've been able to meet people I never thought I'd meet as a kid, know people that have the same passion about the sport as me. And it's in my life right now is truly blessed. I have a remarkable job where I work. The people absolutely love me. The customers love me. They love to see me every day that I'm in there. And I wouldn't change a thing about my life.
I've probably not got anything specific, but I'd certainly probably go back to the beginning of high school, upper school, whichever you want to call it. So that would have been 2000 actually, 2000, and do those last couple of years of school again and see if I could come out with better grades than I perhaps got, and all the life experience that you then get after that, and you could probably take back and use, in your school days when you're, wisdomless, I suppose is a good way of putting it, when you're in school and you're in your own little school bubble and you haven't seen the world and maybe politics and things that go on around you that you don't really take for granted at that age. So or maybe some people did, but I certainly didn't. It was all about just going to school and sort of soccer, football at the weekends, and just being with your pals and things. And so yeah, nothing specifically maybe, but yeah, if I could take my life experience from now and go back 21 years, I guess, to when I was at beginning of upper school, I'd certainly take that if I had the opportunity.
That's a difficult one. Of course, as most of us, I did so many mistakes in life that if I could write that down, it would be like a library filled of books. But ultimately, these things are what shapes us. We wouldn't be what we are now without the mistakes we made and the times that we got back up on our feet and fought back from our mistakes. So not sure if I would really rewind and do something differently, because probably I wouldn't be who I am and where I am right now. Of course, there are things that there are regrets, of course, but if I have to choose to pick something specific, I was super invested in karting when I was a kid, in like 7 years old, and I was all I thought about was getting into motorsport as a driver. And of course, when you do realize when things progress, I reached kind of a decent level. But of course, when you realize that you don't have the money to make the jump into single seaters or stuff like that, you have spent quite a lot of years making a lot of sacrifices for your family, because it's super expensive. And I probably didn't have the time with my with friends, with when they are your age. Didn't have probably some of the experiences that my peers had at the time, because I was so focused on this. And ultimately didn't lead me to the career that I wanted, that was racing in Formula cars. Of course, that's like the story of 1,000 million little kids. But as I said, probably it would have led me to know so many people in the industry, or to to do what I did after that. So I wouldn't totally erase that or do that differently, but probably these are some regrets.
When it comes to something I regret and wish it turned out differently, that's really tricky. There's a lot of stuff where I could say, oh, I wish that had turned out better, but at the end, I sort of don't. The one thing I do regret is I definitely have wished I had tried to venture into YouTube earlier. I did venture into YouTube because we were in the pandemic. There was really nothing to do. I couldn't find a job because we were in a shutdown. But I do know I had been on a couple YouTube videos with World Racing Media. So then I started doing news updates. And next thing you know, I started getting the encouragement, well, maybe you should do your own YouTube channel. Okay, well, I don't want to just be a YouTube channel. I want to be something different. And just seeing how the growth has gone, I just wish I had had the opportunity to do it earlier. And it's just something where I really wish I had just been more, I guess you could say, when YouTube had came out years ago and was starting to really grow, I should have been more daring and, hey, maybe I should do a YouTube channel, because I've always, ever since ESPN RPM Tonight went off the air, and then the Speed Channel went off the air, we've had a gap when it comes to motorsports program. And instead of me just sitting there for years saying, I wish somebody would come back and do this, I wish there was another network, I should have just said, well, I'm going to try it. I don't know how it would have turned out. Maybe we've been bigger now, or maybe it would have just been a few years and then it didn't happen. But it is something where if I could go back 5 years, 6 years ago, definitely be like, hey, I want to start a channel for motorsports news, journalism, the grid ranking. But of course, who knows if I would have met Kobe, Matt, and everybody that I know now. So it's really hard question, but I would feel that's sort of my one regret.
And there's actually one thing that I want to, one thing that I wish I could change, and I feel bad now that I have one thing, especially with Ben and Adam saying that wouldn't change anything. But here we go. The one thing I wish I could change was not taking my college experience as seriously as I should have. I should have enjoyed it while it lasted, because I focused too much on professional things, trying to move forward with my career and make connections in NASCAR down in the Charlotte area. And I feel like I spent too much time on that, and I didn't focus too much on having fun, because when the people who was friends with at UNC Charlotte were attending like different events or going out, I declined because I wanted to focus on my race coverage. And with the pandemic hitting and not getting that senior year on campus and being able to experience things, I really regret not taking that college experience more seriously and just going out doing things. And because I know NASCAR and all the other racing series, they'll be there later waiting for me. And I feel like I should have taken advantage of some opportunities to really just live and enjoy life in Charlotte. Grid Network accomplished a lot of goals. During our first fiscal year as a small business, we got Patreon supporters, a sponsor, got access to media sites from multiple series, established new relationships and connections in the motorsport industry. Just to name some, as a team, we're doing extremely well for ourselves. But I do know everyone here has different personal goals. In the last fiscal year, what's been your proudest moment here at Grid Network, and what are your goals for the current fiscal year?
Well, Kobe, I would say my proudest moment was probably getting to do the last Life on the Grid we did with Ryan Marine. Getting to interview somebody who's at that level at IMS Radio was a very cool experience, and getting to learn from him really helped me and what I'm trying to do with my own career. In terms of goals, I guess I would say just kind of keep trying to put our name out there and keep doing shows like this on the regular. And I feel like, it sounds kind of cliche, the saying from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. There's a lot of race fans, all around the world. We just have to go out and market ourselves to them and keep doing what we're doing. And I truly believe, we'll continue to build our audience as the years go by.
For me, it was when Joe asked me to come and be a part of the Grid Network, especially when he asked me, to preview the Bathurst 1000 last year. Really cool, and it's been a really cool experience for me getting a chance to talk motorsports. I gotta say, it's been a blast doing this, and my goals for down the road are just keep doing what I'm doing, keep putting my name out there, putting the Grid Network name out there, and hopefully down the road, maybe one day I can go cover the supercars in Australia as part of the Grid Network.
Just really enjoying being part of this great team. I think we're building something a little bit different here with our content across all of the various platforms. It's just great to be a part of this little family that we've got going on, and hopefully we can push on forward, get some more movement. It's great that we've had so many. I mean, just in this first half of this calendar year, we've had so many great guests from all the walks of life on these shows and on other bits and pieces. I think girls from the W Series and some other drivers popping up here and there as well. So it's been great to be a part of that, slightly on the periphery, I guess, from my side. But from Grid World Motorsport League, we hope to carry on with what we're doing. And if you're not already following us, then please do over on Twitter at grid_WML every Monday. A brand new update to the scoreboard all the way through to December. Little plug there. But yeah, just great to be part of this little family team, and hopefully we can crack on through the rest of 21 and into 22, and everything's bright and rosy on the other side of COVID, and we can get out to some racetracks and do some more good stuff.
I enjoyed every minute of it. I'm so grateful for being part of this small team. Really enjoyed getting to know all the people behind this project. Really, the interviews that we got to do, bringing some of the W Series drivers on the show, and planning to do more in the near future. I really enjoyed every single minute of live shows. It also gave me more confidence in doing live broadcasts, while I was more of a written journalist, while now I'm a little bit more confident in also doing some stuff behind the camera. And I think I'm so much looking forward to what's to come. And I really enjoyed also doing some of the live shows straight from the track. One of them was last Thursday at Hungaroring, and then I remember the live show that we did in Mugello, when we interviewed the drivers in the paddock live. I was going around with an iPad in the paddock, and I think so much more interesting stuff to come, and I can't wait to get to know more people and cooperating with some more really exciting and talented people behind this project.
I would say my proudest moment was probably one episode of Grid Live where we had me, you, Matt, Jessica, and I believe it was the end of the year episode. And that was just something where it was really reflecting on not even 12 months ago, less than 12 months ago, we started this. 1 year prior to that moment where we were all four of us on the air, I knew Matt, I followed Kobe on the air, and I never knew Jessica, met her, nothing. But here we all are united by motorsports. We knew we had Daniel that worked with us, and that's where I really felt like this is starting to become something really cool, really special. And that was something where it's like, this has just been a whole lot of fun. The last fiscal year, to get over 100 subscribers, to get our Patreon subscribers, it's just been a fun journey. But definitely, I think that was one moment where I really was just like, we're ending the year. I've met some wonderful people despite a lockdown with the pandemic. And it really, I think, made 2020 where it could have just been a year of missed opportunity to a year of we started a grid network. That is just something very special that I will always treasure.
To be honest, my proudest moment here at Grit Network has been absolutely everything. To be honest, I never imagined myself right now looking into a camera talking to you all, because I've always been this socially awkward person who was never great at public speaking, and I still don't think I'm great at public speaking, but been with Grit Network for over a year now, I believe 14 to 15 months now. I believe I've improved a lot speaking. I have a lot more confidence, and 2 years ago I would have not, I wouldn't even done something like this or even consider it, because I was scared of speaking on the camera, because in the past growing up, people had always made fun of the way I look, the way I speak, and I didn't want people to be judging me like that. And luckily, I haven't experienced none of that. And I'm just really thankful for Joe reaching out to me in the early months of the pandemic. And we joined forces here at Great Network to try to build this small business into something that we're going to be extremely proud of for years to come. And one of my biggest goals for the current fiscal year is when I feel like I'm not doing my best here on the air, performing my best, just take it with a grain of salt, understand what needs to improve, and just slowly but surely improve over time. I think one of the biggest issues I had in the last fiscal year is when I felt like I didn't give my best, my 110%. I beat myself up a lot after the show, and it really hurt my confidence. So I've been working with Rob Tiangson, my editor in chief at the Podium Finish. He gave me some really great advice on how to handle making a mistake, because I know the biggest thing that I struggle with here in the air is articulating what I'm trying to say, because in my mind there's a lot of things, well, a lot of ideas that are jumbled up in my head, and they don't always come out clearly. So that's definitely one of the biggest things that I want to work on in the upcoming fiscal year here in the area. And when I mess up, it's okay, because we're all human. Well, we all make mistakes. The only thing that matters is how you respond to those mistakes. And I intend to have a more positive mindset, and instead of putting a whole bunch of pressure on myself to be perfect every single show, just focus on having fun, and the rest will just fall into place. And I want to thank all of my wonderful colleagues at Grid Network for taking the time this evening to do an episode of Life on the Grid with me. It's the 1 year anniversary of this program that I founded, so I thought it would be a really great time to celebrate with my friends here. And be sure to follow us all on Twitter. I'm at Kobe Lambert. Joe Samniego is at JP Samniego 53. Matt White is at Matt White Race, and you can be sure to follow the Grid World Motorsport League at Grid_WML. Ben Snyder is at BC Snyder 53. Adam is at All Sports Fan 24, and Daniel is at Behind Helmet. Also, be sure to follow Grid Network all across social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you have a doll, consider getting them a small gift by shopping online at Pobless. You'll get a 10% discount with any purchase. And last but not least, thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. On behalf of the entire team here at Grid Network, we appreciate you for choosing to support Grid Network as we continue to grow our small business. Colin, you were the first person to jump on board the Grid train, and we'll never forget you for having faith in us early on. Mark, Deshell, your support has allowed Grid Network to take the next step towards establishing ourselves long term as a media outlet in the motorsports community. So believe me when I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I truly mean it. We encourage all our viewers to take a few minutes after tonight's show and look at our Patreon page to see if you want to join Colin, Mark, and Deshell by further investing in Grid Network. Instead of having a musical guest tonight, we're going to celebrate a year's worth of musical guests on Life in the Grid. In the video description, you can find all our previous musical guests in the past year. Be sure to give those songs a listen and let us know what you think in the comment section below. I'm Kobe Lambert, motorsports journalist at the Podium Finish and multimedia producer here at Grid Network.
I'm Ben Schneider from Grid Live Wrap Up.
And I'm Adam Limerick, co-host of Grid Tonight and Repco Australian Supercars expert.
I'm Matt White from the Grid World Motorsport League.
I'm Daniele Zeri from Racers, the Girls Behind the Helmet and the Women Racing to Win co-host.
And I'm Joe San Diego, CEO and founder of the Grid Network. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.